Hey everyone, I'm 10 surprising facts. You know, usually when I say that, I'm talking about like the mating habits of snails or the history of the spork. But today, we're diving into a topic far more complex and far more important, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. This isn't just about a piece of land, it's about people, their histories, their narratives, their struggles. It's about understanding how a conflict that spanned over a century continues to shape the lives of millions today. And trust me, even if you think you know this story, there are layers upon layers of surprising facts woven into its fabric. So buckle up, because over the next 10 chapters, we're going on a journey to uncover the surprising, the heartbreaking, and the hopeful truths that reside at the heart of this enduring conflict. Let's get started. Our story begins in Great Britain. It's 1917. World War I is raging, and the British government makes a promise: the Balfour Declaration. This document declared Britain's support for a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. But Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire, inhabited by Palestinian Arabs. The declaration didn't address the rights of Palestinians already living there. It was a political promise with huge implications and unintended consequences. The Balfour Declaration ignited Jewish immigration, fueled by Zionism. But this influx heightened tensions with the Arab population. The declaration aimed to address one injustice but paved the way for another. After World War II, the world was rebuilding. The Holocaust intensified calls for a Jewish state. Enter the UN with Resolution 181, the Partition Plan. It proposed two states, one Jewish, one Arab, with Jerusalem as an international city. Palestinian Arabs rejected it, feeling shortchanged. Jewish leaders reluctantly accepted it. Violence erupted as the British mandate ended in 1948. The year 1948 marked a turning point, a year etched in the memories of both Israelis and Palestinians, but for vastly different reasons. For Israelis, it was the War of Independence, a fight for survival that led to the birth of their nation. For Palestinians, it was the Nakba, meaning catastrophe in Arabic, a time marked by displacement and loss. As soon as the British withdrew, neighboring Arab states, fearing the creation of a Jewish state, joined the fray, escalating the conflict. The war was brutal, with heavy casualties on both sides. When the dust settled, Israel had emerged victorious, expanding its territory beyond the UN partition lines. Meanwhile, over 700,000 Palestinians were displaced from their homes, becoming refugees in neighboring countries. This mass exodus, known as the Palestinian Exodus or Nakba, remains a deeply sensitive and contested issue to this day. It created a humanitarian crisis and fueled a cycle of resentment and displacement that continues to impact the region. The 1948 war wasn't just about territory, it was about identity, belonging, and the shattering of dreams. It left scars on the land and in the hearts of its people, scars that wouldn't heal easily. Chapter 4. 6 Days That Shook the Middle East, the Six-Day War of 1967. For 19 years, an uneasy truce held, but tensions continued to simmer beneath the surface. Then, in 1967, the region exploded once again in a conflict that would reshape the political landscape, the Six-Day War. This time, it was a preemptive strike by Israel that ignited the powder keg. Fearing an imminent attack from Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, Israel launched a surprise offensive, decimating their air forces in a matter of hours. What followed was a lightning-fast campaign, with Israeli forces capturing the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights, territories belonging to Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, respectively. In just 6 days, Israel had achieved a stunning military victory, but at a cost. The war left Israel in control of territories inhabited by over 1 million Palestinians, further complicating the question of land and control. The Six-Day War, while short, cast a long shadow. It solidified Israel's military dominance in the region, but also deepened the Palestinian sense of dispossession. The dream of a two-state solution seemed more distant than ever. Chapter 5. A War on Two Fronts. The Yom Kippur War of 1973. The Six-Day War may have ended in a decisive Israeli victory, but it didn't bring peace. If anything, it fueled resentment and a thirst for revenge. In 1973, on the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur, that pent-up anger erupted. Egypt and Syria, determined to reclaim the territories lost in 1967, launched a surprise attack on Israeli positions. The initial assault caught Israel off guard, shattering the aura of invincibility they had cultivated. The war, which lasted 3 weeks, was a brutal back-and-forth affair. While Israel ultimately repelled the Arab offensive, the Yom Kippur War had a profound psychological impact. It exposed Israel's vulnerability and shattered the myth of their military invincibility. For the Arab world, despite their military defeat, the war restored a sense of pride and showed that Israel could be challenged. The Yom Kippur War, though militarily inconclusive, proved to be a turning point. It pushed both sides towards the negotiating table, paving the way for future peace talks. Chapter 6. A People's Uprising. The First Intifada. By the mid-1980s, a new generation of Palestinians had come of age, a generation that had only known life under Israeli occupation. Frustration with the lack of progress towards a political solution reached a boiling point, igniting the First Intifada in 1987. This wasn't a war in the traditional sense. It was an uprising, a popular resistance movement characterized by protests, civil disobedience, and yes, at times, violence. Palestinians from all walks of life, shopkeepers, students, laborers, participated, demanding an end to the occupation and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. The images of Palestinian youth throwing stones at heavily armed Israeli soldiers became iconic, capturing the world's attention and shining a light on the human cost of the conflict. The First Intifada, though ultimately unsuccessful in achieving its immediate goals, had a profound impact. It shattered the Israeli narrative of a benevolent occupation and forced the world to acknowledge the Palestinian struggle for self-determination. It also laid the groundwork for future peace negotiations, including the Oslo Accords. For decades, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict had seemed like, well, an intractable problem, a Gordian knot no one could untangle. Then, in the early 1990s, came a glimmer of hope. The Oslo Accords. These groundbreaking agreements, signed in 1993 and 1995, marked the first face-to-face negotiations between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, led by Yasser Arafat. The Oslo Accords were a big deal. They established the Palestinian National Authority as an interim governing body for parts of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, granting Palestinians a degree of self-governance for the first time. The Accords were met with a mix of hope and skepticism. Many saw them as a crucial step towards a two-state solution, a chance for peace after decades of conflict. Others, however, viewed them with suspicion, questioning the commitment of both sides to a lasting peace. The Oslo Accords, while ultimately failing to deliver on their promise of a final peace agreement, represented a pivotal moment in the conflict's history, a moment when, for a brief time, hope outweighed despair. The hope ignited by the Oslo Accords proved to be tragically short-lived. A combination of factors, including continued Israeli settlement expansion in the West Bank, Palestinian frustration with the peace process, and the rise of Hamas, a Palestinian Islamist group opposed to Oslo, led to a new wave of violence. The Second Intifada, which erupted in 2000, was a brutal affair, marked by suicide bombings and targeted killings. Unlike the First Intifada, which was largely characterized by civil disobedience, the Second Intifada saw a more militarized Palestinian resistance. The Israeli response was swift and harsh, with the construction of a separation barrier in the West Bank and increased military incursions into Palestinian territories. The Second Intifada exacted a heavy toll on both sides, further deepening the cycle of mistrust and animosity. It shattered the fragile peace process and left both Israelis and Palestinians feeling more vulnerable and insecure. The Second Intifada demonstrated the fragility of peace and the deep-seated anger that continued to fester beneath the surface. In 2005, in a controversial move, Israel unilaterally withdrew all its settlers and soldiers from the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Disengagement Plan, spearheaded by then Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, was presented as a step towards peace, a way to disengage from the volatile territory. The plan, however, was met with mixed reactions. While some praised it as a bold move towards peace, others criticized it as a unilateral action that failed to address the root causes of the conflict. For Palestinians, the withdrawal was a double-edged sword. While it brought an end to the direct occupation, it also left Gaza isolated and economically strangled. The rise of Hamas, which seized control of Gaza in 2007, further complicated the situation. The Gaza Disengagement Plan, while intended to alleviate the conflict, inadvertently created new challenges. It highlighted the complexities of the situation and the difficulty of finding solutions that satisfy both sides. In a region perpetually on edge, where rockets and airstrikes have become a grim reality of life, one technological innovation stands out: the Iron Dome. This Israeli-developed missile defense system has become a symbol of both technological prowess and the intractable nature of the conflict. The Iron Dome, declared operational in 2011, is designed to intercept and destroy short-range rockets and artillery shells fired from Gaza towards Israeli population centers. Its success rate is impressive, intercepting a significant percentage of incoming projectiles and saving countless lives. For Israelis, the Iron Dome offers a sense of security, a shield in the sky against the constant threat of rocket attacks. However, critics argue that while the Iron Dome may protect lives, it also perpetuates the cycle of violence by creating a false sense of security and reducing the urgency for a political solution. The Iron Dome, while undeniably a technological marvel, highlights the complex realities of the conflict. It's a reminder of the constant threat of violence while also underscoring the challenges of finding a lasting peace. So, there you have it, 10 surprising facts about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It's a story filled with complexities, contradictions, and heartbreaking realities. It's easy to get lost in the narratives of suffering and loss, to feel overwhelmed by the seemingly insurmountable obstacles to peace. But even amidst the rubble of broken promises and shattered dreams, there are glimmers of hope. There are individuals and organizations on both sides working tirelessly to bridge divides, to build understanding, and to advocate for a just and lasting peace. The future of this land, a land sacred to billions, remains uncertain. But by understanding the complexities of its past, by acknowledging the narratives of both Israelis and Palestinians, we can perhaps begin to imagine a future where peace, however elusive, becomes a possibility.